Good afternoon, everyone. Shelley, thank you for the arrangements, and Lance. As always, it's great to be back in front of CourseCo. You all have heard me and seen me a couple of times. A few of you have had the ignominious pleasure of actually playing golf with me once or twice. My golf game is still about the same. Although I do have a new driver, and I actually talked Tom Isaac into using it, and I think he's now going back to Titleist. But nonetheless, it is good to be back. For those of you who don't know me, I have had the privilege of working with Larry for about half of my 25 to 30 years in public relations. And I've known Tom for almost 10 years. He and I met each other at a nonprofit meeting in Petaluma, and he is still to this day the only person in my life who ever said after meeting me and after I introduced myself to him, "I'll call you to play golf." He actually did a day later, and he is we just have built up a strong relationship, and over that time we've continued to talk about CourseCo and about what our skills together combined could do to help this wonderful company continue to prosper and grow and meet those four core values that Michael and all of you talk about, particularly stakeholder communications. This is near and dear to certainly Larry's heart, my heart, ACE's, and I think also to you. And I know some of you are sitting there thinking, this is great, I really don't have the time to do this. Just hold those thoughts, hold those concerns. We're going to talk about those. A little bit about my background quickly. Most of my life has been spent in communications, about 12 years in the newspaper business all across the United States, and about 25 or 30 years, more than my wife likes to remember, in public relations, working with companies not dissimilar. And I also just finished a 2-year term on the Northern California Golf Association board. I stepped away from the board for personal reasons, but sort of had an up-close and in-person view of board operations at the NCGA. And I've visited any number of courses, CourseCo courses, as a tournament official. I'm a rules certified golf tournament official, and I've been doing that now for 6 years. In addition to loving the game, having grown up with a father who played scratch golf and was a club champion many times. I have one of his trophies in my office. It's one of my favorite memories. So in the next hour or so, we're going to have what we hope is going to be a great discussion about CourseCo, about us, about all the wonderful things that this company does and how we can be a benefit to working with you, collaborating on how to promote this wonderful game through your eyes.
All right, now you actually have to hear what I have to say, sorry. You know, I've been in the public relations field for about 35 years, and I also teach PR at a number of places, including the University of San Francisco. And one of the first things I ask my students is, do we really know why we spend money on communications? I mean, can you say why we spend money on marketing and advertising and PR and social media? Why do we do it? Who wants to help me out? Why do we do it? Branding. What's branding?
So to recognize where you want them to go.
So somebody recognizes you just instantly, right? You see that Coca-Cola logo, and that means all kinds of things to you, right? Right. Why else do we spend money on communication? Beg pardon? Drive business, right. You do it to build preference, to drive business, to create an environment where it's easier to do business. You know, that whole, you know, especially in our business, we operate by permission of the communities that we work with. We have to get a license to operate, and we have to be good contributors and good citizens, which is one of the reasons why you guys never lose contracts, because you do fulfill and exceed those expectations. Okay, so that's why we spend money on communication. Let me ask you this. What is news? What's news? Because we want to get you know, some of our great work in the news. Okay, well, what's news? And I'm not talking about fake news, just regular news. It's delivery of information. You got a smartphone, you're a publisher and an editor, right?
We're going to talk about that. These are the two news stories in the men's room at Metropolitan. Anybody want to tell me what they are? I know the women, with the exception of the women, unless you've been in the men's room. There are two news stories there, and I'll explain to you what I mean. One is about how to make a divot pattern And the other is October 28th, that's 5 days, the Cal women's team is going to be here on a Think Pink raising money benefit. I think they're giving lessons. All right? Now, why is that news? It may not be news in the Oakland Tribune. It may not be news to Channel 7. It may not be news, quote, news to the great unwashed out there. It is news to what audience? Golfers at Metro. Why is that important? Brand. It drives the brand at Metropolitan. Why else is that important? Well, again, you go look at your 4 core values. It's stakeholder communications, it's finance. Excuse me, Mike, the other 2 just went right out of my head. Environmental, divots.
Do we need to get him back up here?
Yeah, we don't. But it's news depending on how you structure, quote, what is news. And it's in our business, the way we think, and I know this is not your core strength, it's low-hanging fruit, as they say, to us. And I would do that with various people. When I was an editor of the IJ, I could walk into almost any place and walk up to them and say, I know all you're going to complain about. You never put my news in the newspaper. And I would tell them, you have 4 or 5 stories that I just recognized that you never told us about. Superintendent of the Year. Is that news? Who is it news to? The golf industry. Thank you. And there are all kinds of different things that we can do with it. And I use this as a symbol of the news that we can generate.
Position, it's something that the audience doesn't already know, right? It's news. The one bit of news, since we're sitting here right next to Oakland International Airport, the one bit of news you're never going to read in the paper, 1,500 planes land safely at Oakland International Airport, right? That's not news. The plane that crashes is news. Why? Because it's unusual, it's interesting, it's compelling, it's emotional, it's something that many people have seen happen before, it affects a lot of people. So there are a lot of things that underlie what goes into an editor, a reporter, a producer's judgment of what's news. And so part of what we're going to talk to you about today is how we want to work with you to translate some of the great stuff that's happening in this company at your courses into the eyes of those news decision makers and to make it more compelling in social media where, you know, there's so much activity going on, and all of us, except for my son who was born in, who's born in that country, all of us are immigrants to the digital country and are still trying to learn and figure it out. So, telling the CourseCo story. So I think we've answered this question. I will tell you that I met Tom Isaac many, many, many years ago when we both were working in the political world. We happened to both be working for the same candidate in California, and like Tom, I decided I didn't want to be in politics for the rest of my life, and I wanted to go try my skills in the business world. And here we are, 30 years later, and we've reconnected again. As Michael was saying, there's 4 key things that distinguish this company that we want to be talking about: the courses, the people, your accomplishments, and your issues. Now, what do we mean when we talk about your issues? That's the part of the work where we're trying to look around corners and see where there are potential competitive problems, public policy problems, changes in where the world's tastes are, to help figure out how this company stays relevant and compelling as possible. Any more? Yeah.
California has set up this, what is it, Golf is Good program?
Golf is Good.
We can talk about it later if you wish.
Have you guys ever heard of golf?
Have you heard of it? Have you heard of the campaign? Golf is Good? Anybody?
You have heard.
You've heard it. I know Michael has and so forth. You got the letter.
I got the letter.
You got the letter. Thank you. Yes.
It's an incredibly compelling title, isn't it?
Golf is Good.
For that campaign.
Yeah. We've been watching it. Tom has been watching it. A number of people have been watching it in CourseCo, other golf course companies. Some of you probably have. It just simply underscores the challenges that that the industry has, that most every industry has, but specifically the golf industry has. And when we point this out, it just simply is to say to you that these are the kinds of things that we think about. So that when communities come at you and say, that golf course has got an awful lot of land that could be probably better used for homeless, or that golf course has got a whole lot of land that could be better used for a new road that cuts right through the golf course, and that golf course has got a whole lot of land that could be better used for water. We don't want it to go there, we want it to go someplace else that's going to generate more revenue, or maybe we should tax the golf course. Maybe we should do lots of things to this industry that we know is a mistake or would be a mistake. Those are the kinds of things that we're looking at when you see the word issues. And again, it supports this program, this idea about stakeholder communications, supports the reasons for a program like this to continue to talk about how you view your golf courses as community assets, why they are important. As Larry likes to say, and as he taught me a long time ago, it's pretty tough to fireproof your house when the house has already caught fire. So a lot of what you're going to hear today is got that theory behind it, got that viewpoint behind it. It's a little bit about why golf is good is there, but if we talk about it, great. If we don't, that's okay too. We can come back to it at a later date.
Okay. So let's get right into the specifics of what we are doing, what we're developing, and how we're trying to get you guys involved, right? So let's go to the next slide. So, yeah, we've talked about this. Let me go to the next one. I've already covered this. Okay. So how do we engage? How do we engage with external audiences, the people who drive our business, the people in the communities who make decisions about our continuing license to operate in that community, thought leaders, influencers, business people. In a packet that we'll hand out in just a minute, there are a number of resources that we hope will be helpful to you, and I'm happy to chat about them, once you've got a chance to look at them. The first is just basic engagement with media. We have heard from a number of you, and you're not different than any other group of clients that we work with. How do I put out a press release? I mean, who do I send it to? How do I get this news in my local media? And there's no shame in asking, because it's not a natural thing, right? It's just not a natural thing for most people. So we will show you in this packet, which we've prepared for the GMs, good media lists, which we want to ask you to augment in your local markets. But we have the important kind of industry media and regional media. How to write a release, how to look for news. Let me ask you guys a question. Is there a story? How many of you have stories that you wish the world knew about that are going on at your property?
I'm Brian, but I know this fairly intimately, but because I was with Tom when we had breakfast one morning. Literally driving down the highway, I was going to an NCGA meeting, and he was behind me, and he called me, and he said, "Silverberg, where are you going? It's just weird." I said, "Tom, where are you?" And he said, "About 2 cars behind you. Pull off, we're going to have breakfast." Sure. You told me about that. We've been talking about it, so it's going to happen. Talk us through that, though. Why would that be news?
It improves an asset to the community that lots of people use.
Bunkers, again, golfers, driving range, all of it. Also, it improves the view. You're out in that beautiful new clubhouse that's just been renovated. People are having an event, and they're looking at green grass as opposed to sort of no grass, all right? And there's a lot of different touch points that Larry can talk about, that we'll talk about in this kit, about how we can help you promote that to the various stakeholders and so forth, longitudinally, over a long term, short term as well as long term.
So one of the reasons that it's difficult for us, it's all part of everybody's job description to talk about, to promote the course, and to get some news out into the public, to keep yourself relevant and fresh. This is the kind of thing that might bring some people back, or might give Crystal Springs a second look, might tell the community fathers and mothers that we are investing, that this course means a lot to us, and this contract means a lot to us. How many of you know what's the greatest human phobia? What is it we're afraid of the most in the world? Anybody know? What is it? Public speaking. Public speaking. Clearly, I do not suffer from this problem. Public speaking is the number one fear, the number one phobia of human beings. Do you know what number 2 is?
Yeah.
Death. So, as Jerry Seinfeld once said very famously, so if we go to a funeral, we would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy, right? We fear public speaking that much. So it's not in most of our DNA to go out and broadcast things to the public. And so part of what we're here to do is to help you just in your everyday life make this a part of the business. And we're here to support you and coach you, not just to write plans for you, but to work with Lance and others to make this part of your routine. So in the packet, there's tips on how to identify media, how to identify stories, how to write press releases, who to send them to. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can always bring Lance in as a resource. You can bring us in as a resource. We're here to help out. One of the other things that we're trying to figure out is how can we capture what's going on in social media to our advantage. We are not coming in here with a grand social media plan that's going to cost millions of dollars, but we're trying to, we understand you don't have to look very far on various social media sites to see that people are capturing their experiences on golf courses all by themselves. There are travel agents now that are programming travel for younger audiences to the most Instagrammable places in the world. Think about that. How would you like to be the most Instagrammable golf course and start bringing in those, 30-somethings? Who cares if they want to take pictures on every hole, right? So these are the kinds of things we're also trying to get a better handle on, and also have given you some thoughts in this packet that for you to take home and study, and we can chat more about that. And maybe the next time we come back, we can talk in more detail about social, because it's something we're all trying to get our arms around. Coming up, UGMs in the room are going to be getting a survey that's going to help us build our resource list of local courses, local influentials, the people that we want to stay in touch with on a regular basis to make sure they know all the good things that are happening at your course, that they know all the things that the company that you represent stands for, local media, local dignitaries, and that sort of thing. So that will be coming. You're sending that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Lance is sending that out shortly, and I would just ask you to please take a few minutes. We've designed it to be short and sweet, but it will help us put a good central resource of this kind of stuff together, and we can help you better that way. Are you, okay, so Jay and Asa are going to pass out these packets, and you'll see a couple things in addition to the resource list and so on. You'll see like the fruits of our work, like here's Tom Bugbee, the press, when we actually got him this exciting news in the North Bay Business Journal, or the new management, the new leadership in the golf trades. So it does work. All right, you're tired of hearing me yammering on, I'm sure. No? You want me to keep going? I would like to open it up to questions because we have a pretty strong point of view on what needs to happen and how you make these programs work. But I'm very interested in your questions, the challenges that you guys are facing, and how we can help you right now. So do I have to put this mic in somebody's face, or somebody want to volunteer?
I have a question. Do you have to do all the work? So, let me just get this out to you.
I'll put the mic in his face.
If you don't mind. Adam and Keith, just quickly. Fresno Amateur, one of the most coveted amateur titles in the state of California, if not the West Coast. What would this potentially mean for next year? What it potentially could mean for next year, in addition to the good work that's already done at Riverside to promote the Fresno Amateur. There could be a number of different elements that we could add to this program to help you. you heard Larry talk about, and you see it in your packets, a media list. This is a list that we've created based on our knowledge of how to create media contact lists in communities all across the country, using the various avenues that we have. But you also know people and so forth. So one of the places that we would start is, who do we talk to in Fresno? And how important are they? TV, radio, are there golf bloggers and so forth? I know in Monterey, there's at least 3 people in Monterey that the NCGA continually talks to help promote events there, as does everybody else in Monterey, because these are the bloggers. And these are people who reach a golf audience, a critical mass of golfers in that area. So those are the kinds of things that we would be doing to help you promote the amateur. If you wanted to write the news releases, terrific. If you didn't, we could step in and help with that. And as you go through that packet, you're going to see a whole how to write a news release. You're going to see tips on how to write, excuse me, a news release for a golf tournament, how to write a news release about someone who makes a hole-in-one. Something as simple as that. How to get it to
Let me ask you guys this question. Who cares? Who cares that you win environmental awards? No, it's not a trick question. There is an answer. But as communications advisors, our job is to work with clients to figure out who cares. People we're communicating with are incredibly busy. Think of how busy you guys are. Think of how many times you're looking at your phone, you've got work to do, you're bringing work home, you're bringing work into bed, right? We're all incredibly busy, and social media makes that even harder. So we're trying to communicate to people who really have a very high bar for something that's going to be interesting. You win an environmental award. Why would anybody care about that?
Stakeholders care about that. Stakeholders?
Stakeholders care about it?
Which stakeholders? City municipality?
So city municipality, right.
Who else? Who else? Employees? Colleagues? People who are working at the various golf courses where the superintendent wins?
Golfers at your golf course?
Thank you, yes. And the industry.
Competitors, they probably don't want you to win all these environmental awards.
Why is it important for the industry, city governments, what you're saying? These people are
So
doing
let's
good work.
break this down a little further. You win an environmental award, that's great. That's still all about you, right? You talked about golfers, people in the community, competitors, the industry, how they care. So how do we make it more about them? So look at these environmental awards as something that help you with people who may not care much about you or may be hostile to you. And it eases the relationship a little bit if they see that golf courses are in a position to do something positive about the environment, and here's a company that has it in its DNA. Okay, well maybe I will think a little differently about golf generally, because of this. So that's another way to talk about it, to make them care about it. So let me ask you this question. So who would be the primary audience that you would want to know about the ELGA Award? Center of the bullseye. Client. The Sierra Club. Okay. Let's start with your clients. Why do the clients need to hear about this? Obvious answer, but why? Who are the clients? Your municipalities, counties, right? City managers, county managers, parks and rec people. Right. So one of the things then that we would do, and we would help you do, is to say, look, if we're gonna get this ELGA award announcement, we're not gonna blast it out to the entire world. We're gonna target it right to the people who we want to see it. And sometimes that might be the Sierra Club. There might be some common ground with the Sierra Club, or at least you might mitigate some of their opposition to some of the things that they think are true about golf courses. Okay.
There's another little, Larry asked a question about who's in the middle of the bullseye and how else can we supplement. If you look in the packet, you don't have to look at it now, but it's in there. That's one of the 15,000 planes landing in Oakland successfully. We hope. Let's wait. No. It's in here. It's on one of the... We have news on our hands, I know, exactly.
If it crashed in the metro, we would be in the headlines.
That would be a story.
Get that story about CourseCo.
We could do that. We actually had that happen once. You'll notice there's a box in there. It says Big Sur Flight, Golden Gate Flight, Yosemite Flight. This is from the NCGA, and Jerry Stewart pumps these things out on a weekly basis. Just right off the NCGA website about golf tournaments. These are the championships, the NCGA championships. Golfers from your courses qualify, they go down, they win. First, second, third. He pushes these out. These are the kinds of things that we want to be looking for. When I say we, are talking about Kamer Group, CourseCo. You might be aware of them as well, but these are the kinds of things that we can take maximum advantage of. Again, sort of low-hanging fruit. There are, let's see, Richmond, these are not CourseCos, but just imagine if your team goes down to the 4-ball and they win. NCGA writes about it, publishes, they take a photograph of the winning teams, we get it, out it goes. It goes to men's clubs, women's clubs, whomever it needs to go to, all of the local community clubs, and it's just moving this information out. As we were having this discussion about clients, now we're talking about golfers. Why is that important to the golfers? What do we just do for the winning team, those 4 people? We've moved it out to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, 40, 50,000. Who knows how many people are going to get that news about them? Did they expect it to happen? Probably not. Are they happy if it does because they get a phone call from one of their buddies saying, hey, I just noticed that you won the 4-ball at the NCGA. Congratulations. Now you're going to have to start giving me 3 more strokes. Those are the kinds of things that, again, are second nature to us, that we can help you continue to focus on, to push out, to work on.
Advise you one thing that in this day and age is very, very hard to get, especially if you're a company, a corporation. That is the benefit of the doubt. We're in an age where we just trust so little. We don't trust media. We don't trust politicians. We don't trust each other. It's a tough time. So earning the benefit of the doubt, so somebody would come back to you and say, all right, I get the financial picture, but I balance that against all the other great things, and I'm looking to the future. It's like, all right, maybe you guys are, in the Stone Ages on social media, but that's a problem that can be fixed. But I like everything else I see about you guys. So the benefit of the doubt is key, and the way that works is we give you some, a good, consistent program. You supply us with a good local information, and we work together to make sure these messages get out in a regular way, in a targeted way, and in a measurable way.
2 quick points to add to what Michael said and to what Larry just said. And Michael, you know what I think of you. Great respect. I think the first time you heard me talk in your office with Tom, you were likely in a position or a place with respect to this kind of communications effort, and I suspect Lance was in the same place of where perhaps some of your colleagues are right now, and that is this smoke and mirrors or is this real? What is this really going to mean? And am I going to have to spend money for this? And over the course of time, we've talked, and I think we've all sort of gotten to here now, to where, yes, there is value to this, driven by different means and different reasons and so forth, in the conversations you and I have had about various contracts where you were in the car driving to someplace thinking that, oh my God, if I just had whatever, social media, Twitter, I'd be able to just tell this guy to go away or these people go away. So and my point in saying that is third-party validation, at least I think from my perspective, is listening to you just say what you just said. And that is, my operative phrase there was third-party validation. If you can get somebody else to speak for you, you've done your job.
Including, as I said, a deep dive on social, which we're not going to spend time on today, but maybe we can come back and talk more about that. Are there any questions that you have for us that we haven't answered? Any concerns that we need to be talking about right now? Our contact information is in there, and you can always get us through Lance.
I have a question. How does this work? I'm a GM at a golf course.
Here, you have a question.
I have a question. How does this work? So what happens if I have an idea? I'm at my golf course, I have an event, I have a tournament, I have an issue, I have something coming up. What do I do? Who do I call?
Call Lance, yeah.
Call Lance. I have a social media idea. A golfer just made 2 holes in 1 in the same round of golf. My brother did that about 20 years ago. What do I do with that? How do I get that out? Can I do it myself? Do I need permission? No. You can do it yourself. You don't need permission. But if you need help getting it out, we've done that. Phone call. A phone call. Never gets turned off. At least I know mine doesn't. I think his is still on all the time. A phone call away. All right, that's number 2 that's landed safely. Phone call away. Don't feel encumbered that I have to do this by myself. Key point here. I know you manage your company this way. The boss talked about it. You all have plans. You're looking out 3, 4, 5, 6 months into the future. I suspect right now you can probably tell me some of the bigger tournaments coming at every one of your golf courses in the next 3 months, 6 months while we're getting into the winter. So the tournament season is probably dying off, but not dying off, slowing down. But next year, you're going to have the same rotation, same routine. You know when your club championship is. You know when your men's club championship is. You know when your member guests are all happening. We've given you tips about how to promote those tournaments in that packet. But when you begin looking at your plans for the year in terms of financials and rounds and so forth, you also know when your events are happening, when your critical events are coming to your golf courses. That's when you need to be thinking about, I don't know how to publicize that. I need to call Lance and ask, what can these guys do? What can these people do to help me? So if you have a major tournament coming, like the Sonoma County 2-ball, 2-man amateur, which the Press Democrat didn't cover, it's because they're incompetent, but we'll deal with that next year. They just are. That's just my editorial comment for the day.
Just but dealing with incompetent reporters is a big part of what we do.
Is what we do. There are ways that we can get around those things. There are ways that we can actually fix that by doing our own publicity. So those are the kinds of things that we do. You're not out there just simply saying, oh, great, this is something else that Lance and Michael and Tom have just given us to do. That's not what we're trying to say here. It's what Larry said in the beginning. We're here to collaborate and to help you.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Comment.
Well, I guess we'll turn it back over. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Larry.